Arizona Attorney General Mark Brnovich, a Republican, he joins us now. He's been right in the middle of this fight. And Mr. Attorney General, I got to tell you, I want you to explain to people what ballot harvesting is, because Democrats took a position in California that they were in favor of it, but in North Carolina, they were opposed to it. Now they go to court and they've lost, in addition to the voting, but making sure that you vote in your own precinct.
Yeah, Jason, thank you for having me on July 4th. Happy birthday, America. And in a nutshell, this case was really about, do states have the ability to enact common sense election integrity measures? So ballot harvesting involves the practice where you have either candidates or political parties that go out and try to collect votes, sometimes put pressure on vulnerable populations to vote a certain way. And Arizona, like a lot of other states, has limitations on that. And so the Democratic National Committee sued. We fought. I successfully argued that case myself at the U.S. Supreme Court, and we won. And what's really important for all the viewers to recognize, Jason, is the hypocrisy of the left and even the Biden administration. The Biden administration literally filed a brief saying that they thought these laws were consistent with the Voting Rights Act. And now they're going around bashing them and saying how terrible things are. We know that states like Nevada have similar restrictions, and yet the DNC isn't suing Nevada. And so there's this logical inconsistency. And I remind folks that no less than Jimmy Carter co-chaired a commission that said one of the greatest threats to election integrity was third-party holding ballots and collecting ballots. So this shouldn't be a partisan issue, but for political gain, and I think to try to gin up support for S1 and HR1, they're trying to make this some sort of racial issue, or they're trying to set this narrative that somehow this is disenfranchising voters, and it's not.
Yeah, the Democrats would have you believe that our democracy is going to fail and our country is going to fall apart if this isn't in place. Look at what these two congressmen had to actually say about this. Congressman Presley, in tweets that they put out, if we put up that graphic, I got to tell you, today's SCOTUS decision is yet another attack on our voting rights. Congress must act, abolish the Jim Crow filibuster, pass the For the People Act, pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, expand the court, that's how they want to tackle this, is change the court, and save our democracy. And again, another congressman, Congressman Jones, look at what he tweeted out, because I got to tell you, he wrote, today the Supreme Court once again gutted the Voting Rights Act. If we don't expand the court soon, we will no longer have a democracy to protect. What are we waiting for? Their solution, Mr. Attorney General, is to actually just change the court. They're not attacking the ruling per se. They're just saying, hey, we got to have liberals in there. Otherwise, our democracy will not survive.
Shame on the left's attack on an independent judiciary. An independent judiciary is the bulwark of liberty in our country. It represents the rule of law. And every time the Democrats don't like a case, what they try to do is essentially change the rules in the middle of the game. And we know that this case was tethered in the Constitution. And we know that packing the court or changing the court is a boneheaded idea. And don't take my word for it, Jason. Boneheaded was the term that Joe Biden used on the Senate floor in the 1980s when he was talking about court packing. Once again, I think what this exposes is the hypocrisy of the far left and the hypocriticalness of their position. We know that there are states like Arizona. We have, like I said, we have a case right now that will be argued this week on ballot curing periods. The left has challenged that, and yet Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, all these other left-wing states have very similar laws. So my question for those members of Congress or for Joe Biden is, why is it that in states with Democratic leadership, they have done absolutely nothing to change their laws that are more restrictive than places like Arizona or Georgia that provide more options? I think we know the answer. It's because it's all about scoring cheap political points, trying to nationalize our election, and packing the Supreme Court, which are one of the greatest threats to our liberty here on July 4th in at least the last 50 years.
Yeah, I think the ruling by the Supreme Court was really just common sense. But I got to move now to immigration with you while we have you, because Arizona is right in the thick of it, and you as the Attorney General are right in the middle of this fight. I want to listen to some sound now from Bradon Juddon, who's the president of the National Border Patrol Council. Listen to what he had to say about what's going on at the border.
What can you tell us about the number of people who are getting away and not getting apprehended? Well, the first thing that we have to understand is President Trump had this issue solved. If we would have stuck with those policies that were working, we wouldn't be in this situation today. This is a man-made disaster, and it's a disaster that's been made by this current administration. If we continue to let gotaways get away, we're going to continue to see the lawlessness that exists in these cities.
This really is a human tragedy that is totally avoidable, in my opinion. But what are your thoughts, Mr. Attorney General?
Well, Jason, as you know, we actually have 3 ongoing cases. In fact, we just filed an appeal in one of our cases where we sued the Biden administration over its pause on deportation. So literally, there are 1.2 million people deportation orders, including people with felonies, people being released from prison that aren't being deported. So that case is on appeal. And literally, I wish the Biden administration cared more about hardworking American taxpayers than they did about root causes in Central America. Literally, just few blocks from where I'm sitting right now at Scottsdale and Shade, right near Chaparral High School, near a senior center, there is a detention center that's just been opened up in a luxury hotel. So the Biden administration is subsidizing, they have decriminalized, and they're empowering the cartels. And we've seen this huge spike in fentanyl, Jason. So this is going to affect not only Arizona, it's going to affect the entire country. And the clip you just played on gotaways, what people should be asking themselves, we know that there are hundreds of thousands, 2 million people will be estimated across the border legally just this year. So if those people are voluntarily coming in and surrendering, going to these hotels in Scottsdale, what about the hundreds of thousands of gotaways, the people that don't want to be apprehended, that want to slip into our country? And that is a national security and a criminal justice threat. And it is a tragedy because this is so preventable. The Biden administration created this problem and they're trying to ignore it, but it's not going to go away.
Well, and even the people that were deported or were denied entry into this country are now being invited back into the country instead of going through the normal process of applying for a visa. We legally and lawfully bring in 1 million people a year into our country, but the priorities that have been given by this administration to prioritize those that are willing to break the law and break down the barriers, it's just untenable. And Mr. Attorney General, appreciate your work on this, and thank you for joining us on this important day, Independence Day here in this country. So best to you and your family.
Thanks.
All right, Arizona Attorney General Mark Brnovich, thank you very much. All right, tough talk.